a quiet southern town. Nestled in the lush hills of North Carolina lies a small, sleepy town named Cedar Ridge. The town, rich with tradition and whispers of generations past, is where our story unfolds. At its heart are two people whose love defied time but fell victim to the tangled web of family dynamic. Marla's world. Marla Bennett, 27, was the kind of woman you couldn't forget. Her laughter was warm, but her eyes carried the weight of a childhood carved by loss. Losing her mother at the tender age of 6 had left Marla and her siblings, her older brother, Nate, and younger sister, Lily, to be raised by their father, a man hardened by grief but fiercely protective. Growing up, Marla was the nurturer. She filled the void her mother left behind, cooking dinners, braiding Lily's hair for school, and being Nate's moral compass when he veered too far into trouble. Despite the hardships, the Bennett family's bond was unbreakable, grounded in their shared resilience. James' world. James Carter, 26, grew up a few towns over in the care of his grandparents. His mother passed away from a sudden illness when he was just 5. His father, unable to cope, disappeared soon after, leaving James to be raised by Grandma Elsie and Grandpa Roy. Grandma Elsie was the epitome of a Southern matriarch, strict but loving. She taught James the value of hard work and the importance of family, even as her own health began to waver. Grandpa Roy, a retired carpenter, taught James the trade and instilled in him a quiet strength. But James' heart wasn't always free. His first love, Carrie, had been his high school sweetheart, a vivacious and ambitious young woman who saw the best in him. They had shared dreams of leaving their small town and making something of themselves. James loved Carrie deeply, but as they grew older, cracks began to form. Carrie wanted to chase big dreams in the city, while James felt an obligation to stay close to his grandparents. Their relationship became strained, but before James could gather the courage to leave, life threw a curveball. Carrie discovered she was pregnant. James, ever loyal and responsible, stayed. He couldn't walk away from his child, even if it meant setting aside his own desires. A chance encounter. It was the summer of 2021, and the world was finding its rhythm again after months of uncertainty. Marla, encouraged by her friends, agreed to attend a barbecue hosted by a mutual friend. James, now a young father navigating the complexities of parenthood and partnership, was convinced to attend by a buddy who wanted to get him out of the house. Fate intervened when Marla, distracted by her phone, tripped on an uneven patch of grass, spilling her sweet tea. James, nearby, was quick to catch her before she fell. "Gotcha," he said, his southern drawl soft and warm. Marla laughed nervously, brushing off her embarrassment. "Guess I owe you a tea." James smiled. "How about we call it even if you save me from awkward small talk tonight?" They spent the rest of the evening talking, discovering shared interests, from their love for North Carolina's Blue Ridge Mountains to their favorite classic country songs. It was as though they'd known each other forever. But James kept his past and his family from their conversations. The growing bond. Over the next year, Marla and James became inseparable. They explored hiking trails, shared Sunday dinners, and built a connection that felt like home. But beneath their happiness, shadows loomed, shadows cast by their families. James couldn't ignore the growing tension in his life. Carrie, still deeply tied to him through their child, became increasingly wary of his connection with Marla. Though James cared for Carrie and respected her as the mother of his child, he couldn't ignore the fact that their relationship had become more about obligation than love. Marla, on the other hand, was dealing with her own family struggles. Her father, always protective, had heard whispers of James' complicated past. When he discovered that James had a child with another woman and was still connected to Carrie, his disapproval turned into outright anger. "I won't have my daughter tangled up with someone who doesn't know what he wants," her father said one evening, his voice cold. "He's already got a family, Marla. You deserve better." The breaking point. One evening, as Marla and James sat under the sprawling branches of an old oak tree, the weight of their family's disapproval came crashing down. "My dad says I'm putting the family second by being with you," Marla admitted, tears streaming down her face. "He says you'll never really be mine because of Carrie, and your son." James sighed, his heart breaking. "Carrie knows I've wanted to leave, but I can't walk away from my son. He's my world, Marla." Marla nodded, understanding but devastated. "I can't be the reason you lose your family, James. I love you too much to let that happen." They clung to each other that night, whispering promises they couldn't keep. The love between them was undeniable, but so was the pull of their familial obligations. Ways. In the end, they made the heart-wrenching decision to part ways. Marla stayed in Cedar Ridge, eventually marrying a childhood friend who offered stability and a shared history. James returned to Carrie, trying to make their relationship work for the sake of their child. Years passed and life moved on. Marla had 2 children, pouring her love into them as she had for her siblings. James built a successful carpentry business, finding solace in his craft and the family he built with Carrie, though his heart never fully let go of Marla. A chance reunion. 25 years later, at a community event celebrating Cedar Ridge's heritage, Marla and James crossed paths once more. The years had softened their faces, but not the spark between them. They spoke cautiously at first, catching up on each other's lives, but soon the conversation turned to what once was. "I never stopped thinking about you," James confessed, his voice thick with emotion. "Even when I tried to move on, part of me stayed with you." "Neither did I," Marla admitted. "But we made our choices." They spent hours talking that day, walking the familiar streets of Cedar Ridge. When it was time to part, they exchanged one final embrace, holding on to the bittersweet truth that while their love had endured, life had taken them in different directions. A love that lingers. Though they couldn't be together, Marla and James carried each other in their hearts. Their story was one of love, not defined by possession, but by its endurance. And even as they lived separate lives, they found comfort in knowing that in another time, another life, they had been each other's everything.
So, what do you think about this story? Have you ever been in a similar situation? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you for watching.